Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our July 19th Board of County Commission Budget Workshop. We're going to begin this morning with an invocation by Captain Jeff Marquis from the Salvation Army, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Will you pray with me? Most gracious Heavenly Father, we pause right now to praise you for your goodness, that despite our faulties and our failings, that you continue to shower us with your mercy and your grace. I pray right now for each person involved in this meeting, that even as they come to make decisions on how to lead our county, they are dealing with their own things outside and their friends and family. So we pray that you give them comfort where comfort is needed. And we thank you so much for the people that have taken on the task to lead this county. We pray for wisdom and discernment during this meeting and in the coming days, weeks, and months as they continue to lead our county and to fruition in a way that you would desire. We praise you, Heavenly Father, and we do all of these things for your glory. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we have no additional items this morning on the agenda, and I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
For approval. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins to approve the agenda. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And we're going to move on to public comment. Is there anybody in the gallery that wishes to make public comment? No. Seeing none, Commissioner comment. Commissioner Jenkins. Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Campy?
All set.
Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah, a couple things. One is I would like to thank the library department and the Parks and Recs department for the wonderful story walks. There are 5 parks in Martin County that had this wonderful program. It's a story that's told on very colorful storyboards while you're walking through the shaded Maggie's Hammock Park, and it's just wonderful. It's something that I know that families have been enjoying in my neighborhood. It's something that I would like for it to become permanent, except that it's kind of nice that it's a special thing that kids can look forward to in the summertime. So if you haven't gone to the parks and participated in the story walks, be sure and do it, because they're going to take them down at the end of July, if I'm not mistaken. And lastly, I am concerned about this budget, and I'm concerned because of the increases in the budget. I feel like the economics these days are approaching that of 2006, 2007. It seems like it's a really frothy, unrealistic market, and we're seeing increases that I know are not sustainable, and I'm concerned that we're adding too much capital and too much operations into our budget, and the 2008 and 2009 were no fun. We had to shrink our budget by tens of millions of dollars and furloughed employees and cut services and hurt our public works departments and hurt our libraries and hurt our parks. And I just think that this rate is not sustainable. So department heads, don't take it personally if I oppose your budgets. I also am concerned that we are receiving federal funding for this year and next year, $15 million a year. We are going to be spending those monies in addition to the proposal for the budget, and that's not included in the budget, and that's not sustainable because those are once in a lifetime appropriations. So I just have real reservations about the rate at which our budget is growing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to congratulate Florida Oceanographic Society. We participated in the ribbon cutting on Friday for their new eco center, and it's fantastic. So if you haven't been there, then they are open to the public now, and it's a 3-story. You have a view of the ocean to the river on the top. They've got some fantastic exhibits that I think I'll even drag my own teenagers to see. So it really is. It was beyond my wildest dreams. They came and they described what it was, but it's very, very impressive. So congratulations to them, and I would encourage the public to stop in and visit. Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, thank you. And I apologize, Madam Chair, for not being there. I had double booked myself, and I don't know why or how I did that, but that's my own problem. So, but I heard it was really great, and thank you for being there on behalf of the county and so on. Also, too, across the street, for those who have been dealing with our parking lot, sort of half done, half not done, it's finally finished, and so all of Stewart Beach looks great. Sunshine did a fantastic job as always, and it's great to have that back finished as an asset too. So it's a great little area out there.
And you'll be having a
Ribbon cutting Friday, I
This
believe.
Friday.
5 p.m.
Afternoon or Friday night. So hopefully y'all can come for Seaside. Of course, Sand Dune may be closed for a little bit, which might have been perfect timing on opening up Seaside versus Sand Dune, but
Yeah, that
Why is Sand Dune closed?
car ran into the.
it flew actually into
Wow.
it, I think. It didn't run
I think
into
it
Into what?
missed the roundabout. It took out a light. We went by there. It took out the light post or light and
Got
just
the
went
sign, the entrance
right in.
sign, the light post, kind of cleared all that and literally landed into Sand Dune.
oh my.
And took out like 3 or 4
Electrical
of the
panel
support pilings underneath.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
What happened to the driver?
he climbed out,
Wow.
and our folks in green escorted him to I'm sure to a new place of residency for a while.
Sorry to hear that.
Anyway,
Okay. All right.
Anybody we know?
St. Lucie County resident.
Okay. Taryn, do you have anything to share with us?
No, but I would like to do some opening comments before we turn it over to Ms. Manning whenever we're ready.
Ms. Woods? Okay. Take it away.
Ready?
Then we'll start with our overview and your
Yes, ma'am.
opening comments.
All right. So last year, due to the pandemic, we had limited individuals coming to address the board with their budget requests and presentations. And this year, staff is recommending that the board receive presentations from those constitutional officers and departments that are requesting additional monies for additional personnel, enhanced program funding, or other significant changes that the board should consider as part of this tentative FY22 budget deliberation. Therefore, the schedule for today was modified. There are increases in every constitutional officer and department budgets due to 3 things. The Florida retirement system has increased the employer's contribution rates, which we have no control over. There's also a 5% increase for health insurance premiums for the employer and employees. And there's also some proposed salary adjustments that either may be forthcoming or they've been approved as part of a multi-year collective bargaining agreement. We are submitting this FY22 tentative budget to you for your consideration. I believe this budget is a basis to implement new programs or projects which the board has previously indicated to staff are priorities, along with continuation or even expansion of existing programs and projects which have also been communicated to staff as board priorities. Staff is proposing a slight increase in the overall millage rate of 1.88%. This is less than 2%. This slight increase will generate the additional ad valorem that is necessary again to fund those increases that could not be absorbed, along with a portion of the positions that are funded with monies other than ad valorem. They are conversion of contracted services and/or are being added to reduce overtime, which in most of those cases is also improving our customer service through modification of hours of operation. Each budget and position requests were fully vetted by staff, and not all requests that were made were granted. Every effort at the staff level was made to try and keep this budget at the same millage rate as last year. But due to the tax base not realizing as significant an increase as planned, a constant millage rate would require reductions in operations or projects. Another challenge that we had in developing this budget was the implementation of some specific items, such as enhanced landscaping, maintenance of our stormwater treatment areas, and the reduction in the use of glyphosate, just to name a few, all which have had value to our quality of life, but also have an increase in our costs to provide that level of service. Adding programs or enhancing existing ones or adding new facilities and projects cannot be achieved without an increase in funding. Ms. Manning will provide you with an overview, and then we will begin presenting only those departments that have an increase due to dynamics other than the three that were outlined for you earlier: FRS increase, health insurance increase, and salary adjustments. Ms. Manning's presentation, she will be providing you with a current update of some of our major revenue sources, that not only for this current year, but past years. This will reflect the fact that we were fortunate in Martin County to have our revenues remain fairly stable during the pandemic. The past year has presented Martin County with challenges that we were able to overcome and learn from. I am very proud of your staff and the innovation, diligence, commitment, and loyalty shown by our employees in the continuation of services that the county provided during a time that was not only unprecedented, but ever-changing. Our partnership with our other elected officials and agencies here in the county were so valuable, and our ability to work together and resolve those issues was done almost seamlessly. To those that were on the outside, they didn't realize what we were going through. They were not aware of the efforts that were being made and the willingness to accomplish great things. I want to thank you, Commissioners, for your leadership and guidance as we navigate through those trying times. And to those that I work most closely with, I appreciate your unwavering support, and I thank you. Jennifer.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jennifer Manning, OMB Director. As Chris mentioned, I will be going over the overview for the budget and just covering a little bit of the major revenues and how the collections, to go over the process of creating the budget and making recommendations at the end. I won't go through everything on the slide. So I would begin with the local revenues for FY21, and all of our revenues, most of our revenues, I shouldn't say most of our revenues are meeting or exceeding expectation, and of course there are reasons for that. Some of the reasons involved when we adopted the budget in FY21, we were very conservative due to the pandemic, not knowing what's going to go on, and also, when the stimulus funds were released, we are seeing, yielding additional expenses, and then that yields sales tax and revenue sharing and so forth. So, first of all, I won't go over every revenue, but ad valorem, of course, it's at 101%, and that's mainly due to budgeting at 95% as required by statutes. And most of the revenues are collected by June. And then as far as our building permit, impact fees, yes, it's 316% of what we budgeted, and that's mainly because it's changing legislative, the changes in the legislation. In terms of how we collect the revenues for impact fees, we have to collect those at the building permit issuance. So moving forward, since last year, we decided not to program those revenues until we actually receive them. So because we have no control of when those permits are being issued. As far as building permit fees, right now they're approximately 22% over last year. And that's also yielding like roughly $200 million worth of valuation. Ambulance fees are in line. Franchise fees, it's slightly over. We're projecting in the next 5 years, an average of 4.3% increase in those revenues. As far as I should mention tourism as well, which is quite a bit. They're at 98% collected. They're about 32% over last year, it's an odd year, so we can't really compare anything. But for April, May, and June, it's the highest collection of bed tax ever recorded.
Great. Ms. Manning. Commissioner Smith?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. So we just had our TDC meeting last week, and the numbers are amazing with what the TDC has been, or I say TDC, what the hoteliers have been able to do. It has been a remarkable year, and just congratulations to them with all that they had to deal with. But they have pulled off and they have maintained an incredibly strong rate, which has been super important to the business. And as you can see, our revenue is significantly up. So great job to them. Thank you, Jennifer.
Also, when you look at the Sailfish Splash, of course, coming back, most of the revenues, the lion's share of the revenues are collected in April, May, and June, and July. So that's why you're seeing such a large collection over what is expected. Interest, we are suffering with interest because as our investments mature, the reinvestments are at a lower rate. So we're feeling a lot on our interest. So we are very conservative in projecting for FY22 because of that. These next slides are just a graphical of all the trends in our collections. I won't go over all these because it's just for informational purposes. So we have ad valorem and impact fees. And then our building fees, and these are all local revenues again, and ambulance fees. Tourist development, bed tax, and we have development review. Am I going too fast, or that's okay? Okay.
Good.
And franchise fees and
Speed
self.
reading.
Speed reading.
Speed visuals.
Okay, speed visuals. And I can always slow down if you want me to. Okay, so now we come to the state revenues, and those revenues are projected by the state, and we have no control over that, but we are very conservative. You know, we try to stay positive, but at the same time, we have no control. So as you look at the communications tax, it is lower than projected, but slightly. The revenue sharing, as I mentioned earlier, all the funds that are being spent right now because of the stimulus funds are yielding high return for us. And the half-cent sales tax is also quite a bit higher than we anticipated. But I don't think it'll continue. I think we'll be back on trend next year. So we projected as such. And of course, with fuel tax, we're going to see it's not going to grow because of all electric cars. We're going to see it either stabilize or decrease over time. And again, these are just the graphical the trends over the last few years.
Hey, Jennifer.
Yes.
On the fuel tax, when do we see, how far behind are those numbers?
They're 2 months behind.
So we should be seeing at this point, or we should have already seen
20.
February, March, April, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, but we don't have, you don't have that broken out, right? I'd just be curious in the season with as many people that were here, it'd be interesting to see if that went up.
Yeah, we have a graph of that by month, and I can provide that to you
Yeah.
as well.
That's fine. I'd be just curious to.
Yes, we
as
do
many
have it on
people
file.
that seem to be here, it'd just be interesting to see if the fuel tax was like, did that track?
Yeah, it was lower, you know, in the beginning, then it started picking up as you know as everyone came back to work. Yeah.
Well, one of the challenges we have with fuel taxes, and we talked to it at the legislative sessions, is it's the same amount. It's the 12 cents that we've had for the last 30 years, probably. They don't allow it to index. And so it's just, unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with.
And then here is our local half-cent sales tax. As you can see, we're currently at 7 months worth of collection, but it's at 11 million. And we collected last year 15.9 million. And fuel, you can see how, you know, we're just making it, you know, compared to our projections. And these are the enterprise funds, which includes water and sewer. And of course, we're trending higher. The consumption due to the drought increase our, you know, revenues, and also in the commercial end, we have seen a robust economic construction in the restaurant industry and in residential and so forth. The golf course, we're seeing where the golf course is lower than projected, and as the board realized, there is construction being done right now. So we should see that turn around next year. And again, this is just the trends. That leads us into why we're here. Well, we're here because the county administrator is given the powers to prepare and submit it to the county commissioners for consideration and adoption of an annual operating budget, a capital budget, and a capital program. The FY22 tentative budget, as submitted, is a working document, and changes can be made throughout. We have it scheduled until tomorrow, which is the 20th of July, and we're hoping that we could wrap things up today if possible. So that's just a, you know, a reserve day, if you will. So I'm going to go over the total budget, the total revenues and expenditures for the tentative budget. And the tentative budget is $530 million roughly. And it includes our local sales and use tax, the ad valorem for general fund and MSU ad valorem. And we also have state shared revenues, we have grants.
Can you enlarge it to a full screen?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry,
there you go.
driver.
Great.
Okay. All right. So as you can see, the lion's share, of course, is ad valorem. And then the miscellaneous revenue also has a large percentage of our revenues. We have the franchise fees, charges for services, and we have assessments and grants. That makes up the $530 million.
Commissioner Hurd.
And where are the ARP funds?
There's no ARP funds included in this tentative budget because it was created before we actually received those funds, and we haven't had our spend plan done for that as yet.
Well, this is the only opportunity we have to reflect those funds. We can only go down from today, so,
No, Commissioner, we would be coming to you with a plan, a spending plan, and do a budget resolution and add those funds at that time like we do throughout the year until the board approves a plan and gives us that direction. George has brought you kind of an overview, but we're still finalizing it, and they're still working on the rule as to how those funds can be spent, if I'm not mistaken.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Assistant County Administrator George Stokas. Yeah, the final rule, the rule, interestingly enough, my presentation on June 22nd, the day after, the Department of Treasury issued 165 new pages of new rules. The final rule, the interim rule closed on Friday. We're expecting the final rule to come out hopefully in the beginning of August. And as I recall from the last meeting, we're going to be coming back to you with two items for sure, and that is the results of the COVID-19 economic impact study, as well as the, I don't want to say prioritized, but a list of the capital improvement projects, including the water, sewer, there's some roads resurfacing, probably some park stuff in there, broadband, all that will come back to you as an actual plan. But we can't do that until, we found out already some of the programs we're looking at aren't eligible, so we're going to have to come back to you with a better plan at that point. So hopefully that answers your question.
Ms. Manning, the fund balance includes the 10% reserves and any project allocations that were allocated in the prior budget. Is that
You're looking at the fund reserves?
balance?
Okay, yeah, the fund balance is just, it could be a part of our restricted reserve that's moved forward, but all the reserve from utilities is about 40 million, and then we have 17 million in restricted reserve that is moved forward. That does not include the increases for salary. It's under the reserve area. So the fund balance is actually carrying the funds in, and we reserve it on the expense side.
Okay, and that fund also includes the our general reserves of 10%.
Yes, it
Okay.
does.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so our expenditures includes, and you just mentioned, the transfers and reserves. Those are where you'll find the restricted reserves with the reserves for building, reserves for utilities, reserve for their capital projects as they carry forward, and all the other, like reserves for debt service or what have you. Then we have personal service, which is about 20% of the expenditures. We have operating expenses, which represents 29%. Our capital is 10% of our budget. Debt service is 4%. And our constitutional officers is 18%, or 93.9 million. In April, the board tentatively approved the capital projects improvement plan, and that is included in the budget currently. The growth in the tax base for the general fund is 5.27%. The total ad valorem increase is approximately $11 million in the tax base, and that includes the MSTUs. This chart just shows the different percent increases. And as you can see, 5.27, and it goes up to, I'm going to slide down to the MSTUs at 6.22%, and fire rescue went up 5.21%. So during developing the budget included using the millage rate, using the taxable value for July 1. And importantly, we had to fund the constitutional officer's requests. The departments maintained the same level of service, and the only increases were, it's the cost of doing business. And that includes prior board direction, increases in electricity, or just contract increases. We also added full-time positions, and about 20% of those positions are contracted positions, but we also have, converted positions, but we also have a lot of those positions that are fee-funded, like, for example, utilities or building. And then, of course, we talked about capital projects being approved in April, tentatively. Overall, we have $15 million increase in our ad valorem. And the $15 million represents countywide, that includes your general fund, your capital projects. It also includes the medical services and sorry, my brain just, medical services. And of course, there's fire MSTU, you have stormwater, roads, MSTU, and special district represents 21% of that $15 million. The next few slides, I'm just going to give a breakdown of what those increases are. As mentioned, in April, the CIP was tentatively approved. That yielded roughly $3.1 million. The lion's share is for parks and a park CIP, which included projects such as the Charlie Layton Park, Citrus Grove Park, and we had the golf course that was approved prior to the CIP going through, and we also had the Indian Riverside Park projects. And then we also have the resilient program in coastal, as well as ecosystem programs, and that yielded the 3.1. As far as the general fund is concerned, it was $8.6 million. And as Ms. Christa mentioned, there were several reasons why we are requesting $8.6 million. The constitutional officers represented $5.1 million. The FPL tangible personal property grant that we have a contract for 5 years is $900,000. The tax collector fees, and when I say tax collector fees, it's the cost of collecting those tax dollars and remitting it to the county. So we have a fee, so it increases over every year because we increase our taxes. And then you also have the CRA for the city and the county, and but it's based on the tax base growing in those CRAs, and that's $648,000. The property insurance went up for $487,000. FRS, and this is just for general fund, $350,000. We had E911 request additional funding for operation, and that's $300,000. And we had a transit corridor grant, which is expired this year, and we're requesting $175,000 to replace it. This is for veteran services. And this is just a chart showing the breakdown of that $8.6 million. And as you can see, the lion's share is the constitutional officers, and then we have all the requests that we have, the county has no control over. We have commitments to pay these. Ad valorem impact for the fire, parks, stormwater, and district MSTU, it's $3.2 million. And that represents $1.8 million in contract obligation for fire rescue. And we have FRS unfunded liability, $674,000. And then we also have the armor contract for inmate medical, $392,000. The county CRA, the MSU CRA obligation of $136,000. We brought forward the Morin Field, $121,000. And the special district MSU requested an additional $70,000. And this is a breakdown of the total ad valorem. So the total ad valorem requested is $230 million, and 43% constitutional officers, 21% is for fire rescue. We have the board operational department, other operational departments of 20%, and we have the capital projects is 11%, and then as far as health and medical services is 4%, and the district, MSU only, and special district represents 1%. This is just a 5-year look back at our ad valorem, and as you can see, we're requesting 230, we were at 215 in last year. And we spoke about the unfunded liability for FRS. We are obligated to pay these, and that represented about almost $1.2 million between the general fund and the MSTU. So when you look overall, as far as the dollar is concerned, the constitutional officers represents 43 cents, fire rescue 21 cents, other operations 20%, 11% for capital, and 4 cents, I shouldn't say percent, 11 cents for capital and 4 cents for health. The tentative budget reserves includes 10% that is required in our fiscal policy. We're actually estimating slightly over the 10%, and we're happy to do that because we have no control over what's going on. And establishing similar restricted reserves as we are able to, we do those in other funds. As far as building and utilities operation, building department requires up to 1 year in operational reserves, and there's 3 months for utilities and solid waste operations. This is just a reserve chart. I think Commissioner Heatherton was asking about earlier, where we have restricted reserves, we have reserve for salaries across all the funds, we have funding for supervisor elections per fiscal policy, we have a $500,000 contingency in the general fund, and then we have several other types of reserve that is set aside, which represents $68.9 million. So in summary, the proposed budget includes full funding of the constitutional officers. The Florida statute identifies a process for a reduction of the sheriff's budget. Then we have the capital improvement plan that was tentatively approved. We have funding for investing in our employees. We're funding property insurance, CRA, FP&L, FRS unfunded mandates. And then we are also funding the board's direction that was included in the 22 budget. And then maintaining the level of service or cost of doing business for various departments. That concludes my overview. Any questions? I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you. So commissioners, we'll take questions now from Ms. Manning on the intro and the overview, and then you'll do a departmental overview after we do the constitutionals.
Yes. We really just have the sheriff that we were planning to hear from today because the other constitutional officers did not have any changes and had made themselves available. And the tax collector sent her presentation over for the board to review. So it's really just the sheriff who has an increase included in his budget where he's asking for possible new positions and things like that.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Manning at this time? No. Okay, so what we're going to do is, just so we can get situated with our constitutionals or our sheriff's office, we're going to take a quick 5-minute recess and reconvene at 9:45. it's on.
She's not here. This is her thing.
I'm feeling like
What did you
we all should have gotten our heads shaved or something. That's the email.
Yeah.
Oh, we're close.
Good.
Never done it. Is that what they call that?
Thank you.
Everybody ready? Yep. Okay.
Those are my two choices.
All right. You can. Okay. Welcome back. We are back from recess on our July 19th budget workshop, and we are going to reconvene this morning with our constitutional officers, and we have with us our sheriff. Welcome. And we appreciate what you do, and you have a brief presentation for us this morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I really do expect it to be brief, but I'm here for as long as you need for questions. Vice Chair and Commissioners, thank you all so much. And I'd like to start off just real briefly by thanking my command staff that is behind me. They're really the nuts and bolts of running the sheriff's office, and they worked hard to put the budget together, and I appreciate them being here, and then thank my COO and comptroller and treasurer, Kevin Youngblood, who has this budget all in his head. So he'll look down just as an act of humility, but for the most part, he's 100% fluid in all nuances of it. I'll start off by saying that I think I've said this just about every year. I was trying to do the math. I think this is my 8th time here, or 9th. And I never come here without a true gut feeling of how difficult your job is. And you know I say that because I was an appropriator once in the Florida House. And I know that people never ask for anything that they don't think they need. And they never ask for anything that's silly or for entertainment. You know, in today's day and age, when so many people take shots at electeds and think they could do it better, I would like to say that I recognize how difficult your job is. I do. I know what it feels like. This is a big budget. I can't sugarcoat it. It's a 6.5% increase. I get it. So I stand here in really in awe of what you have to do and in humility, but recognizing that we both have, the 6 of us here and the rest of staff, thank you, have a common goal, and that's for the welfare of Martin County. That's all I care about. Someone asked me the other day, and we've only got 2 pages, and I'll get off your lectern, how do I arrive at decisions? What drives me? You know, that's a good question. Somebody kind of on the leadership track, what goes into your decision making? And I said, first of all, you have to have a North Star. You have to have something that swings you in the direction you want to go. And I say this, there's not any political sense to this at all. My absolute North Star is whenever I have to do something, whether it's a budget item, a request to appear somewhere, a discipline, a promotion, a demotion, whatever it is, the North Star for me is how do I make Martin County residents safer? And that's it. That's where I start. So if you come to me and say, okay, problem A, what are we going to do? My starting point is, what do I do to keep people in Martin County safe? So that's our driving force. I preach it. They're the congregation. Do you all do it? Look at that. So that's where we are. And with that, let me go over just the highlights of the budget. And then this is a macro. We're not going to dig deep. You have the budget book. Kevin, where's our next slide? The total budget in 21-22 is just under 79 million. It's 78, obviously you have it in front of you, 940, 517. What were the drivers? I wanted you to have a sense of what was driving our increase. How come we have a 6.5% increase? Number one, and not in any particular order of hit, is the higher Florida retirement system rates. You all have the same thing. I can't do a thing about it. We're FRS, we're special risk. Kevin has all these numbers right in front of him, so we didn't put all that up there. But that was one of the drivers. The other driver I think probably an industry standard everywhere, from Microsoft to the Florida Keys and everywhere in between, higher health insurance costs. We've done the best we could. We have a wellness program. We have a third party that negotiates for us, and we have a clinic. We've really done everything we can to keep these rates down. I don't think, is this the first increase in how long, Kevin?
Last year was the first increase in about 5 years.
5 years. So I think we've done pretty good considering. We do offer a very good insurance plan. I think it's similar to what you all have, but it's one of the advantages of working for the sheriff's office, and we tout that in recruiting. And then our just like you all, you have co-pays. They assist. We have a 75-25 negotiated breakdown with our staff. And then the other another big driver is the information technology. We kind of lump that all together. I've said it before, and I'll say it publicly. Anybody who is in the software industry today, if you believed in reincarnation in their previous life, they were pirates or horse thieves or both. If I was going to go into business today, I'd go into developing something you can't live without, give it to you for half price, and then charge you an arm and a leg every year to maintain it. And that's what they do. They're pirates. Anyway, I said enough about that. If any of your children or grandchildren are in that industry, I'm sure they're an exception. But that information technology, there's two foundations to the sheriff's office, our sheriff's office efforts to suppress crime and prevent it. That is our aviation unit and our technology, our IT. We don't talk a lot about it publicly, but we have a very, very robust. Some of you, maybe all of you, have visited our real-time crime center. That is a fortune to maintain. But we now have, almost routinely, when we have a crime, a reported, one of our traditionally onerous crimes, car burglaries, residential burglaries, and car thefts, outboard motor thefts. When we have one of those, where's my detective captain? John, raise your hand. His crew, along because of the good work of the first responders and road patrol, are more likely than not going to catch the apprehender. Now, that's a pretty bold statement, but I have statistics. More likely than not, if you leave Palm Beach County and you're stupid enough to get off at 76 and go east into our county and commit a burglary, a car theft, go to Halpatioke, break into 10 cars, go into Rocky Point and hit cars that are unlocked, the likelihood is we're going to catch you. And that keys off of our ability to keep track of these offenders. They're more sophisticated than they were 5 years ago. They roll in here with their GPSs going, and it's a nightmare keeping up with them. We try to keep at least a step ahead. And then finally, under advancements in equipment for law enforcement, I kind of talked about that's really our operational expenses. That's gas, fuel for the cars, helicopter blades, so much of what we have to do to keep going. I say this every year. I know I sound like a broken record. We have a very expensive industry. We really do. Nothing I do is cheap. But I think that's probably going on today, too. I think if you were a farmer in the Midwest, Don, you'd find the same thing, that feed's expensive. Automated tractors are expensive. We live in a complex, technology-driven, evolving society, and I'll kind of start to wind down with this. I was telling the commissioner, I broke my leg off-road motorcycling in Idaho, and I was 8 hours from the hospital, three hours waiting for the ambulance, 3 hours back out off the mountain, and it made me think. I was in a place called Yellow Pine, Idaho. I said, what happens when there's a fire here? What happens when there's a heart attack? There's nobody. It's 11 people live there in the winter. And I asked the fire guy, I said, he said, well, it burns down. I said, well, what happens when they have a heart attack? They die. But they made that choice. So I said that to say that's a stark illustration, because everywhere in between, rolling through Missouri, we saw it in different places. We have a nice standard of living here. If you have a heart attack in Martin County, I personally would be relieved if I had chest pains to see the Martin County Sheriff, the Martin County paramedics rolling in, knowing I could get a helicopter, knowing I could go to a world-class hospital facility. And so the same thing on the other side. If you have a burglary, if you have a suspicious person at the bus bench and your grandchild or your child is frightened, you really do have a first-rate law enforcement agency to respond. That's the driver. That's what I try to do every day. And that resulted in a $78,940,517 request to keep us going. As I close, there's nothing in there. We've looked at every single request. What did it start out as, Kevin?
Over 85 million.
85 million is what our collective, the captains, they're sitting out here, the major behind me, collectively kind of put that together, and then we pared it down to this. I could have asked for the whole 85. There wasn't anything in there goofy. It was just, we just couldn't add that much to the budget. This does give us a couple of deputies to start our first responder, co-responder unit for mental health. And then I think we had, what else we asked for, Kevin? A technician,
Evidence technician, a crime analyst, and then a TFO, tactical flight officer as well.
and that TFO is the eyes and ears for the helicopter. So without them, it's just might as well just be giving rides because of all the technology. Have you seen our Facebook where you see the videos? That's all that tactical flight officer. So I'll close where I began. Thank you for what you guys do, what you all do, ladies and gentlemen. And I give you my word, there's not a penny in there that won't help in the fight to keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. And I think you hit on it just before you close. The standard of living. There's an expectation in Martin County that public safety is prioritized, and we become accustomed to a particular standard. Your information technology advancements are pretty phenomenal, and it's pretty phenomenal how maybe law enforcement has even changed. I remember in that room looking, and I said, "Gosh, does that help you entice deputies because the profession is a little safer?" And of course, Sheriff said, no, that's not a consideration for those that we're recruiting. But it's pretty amazing that, you can use these technologies to better protect our first responders and to better protect our public. And just a quick incidental story. Recently in March, I was traveling and at a state park where my car was broken into, and I wasn't out of that thing for 5 minutes. And they broke the window, stole a lot of my personal belongings. And but there was no desire for that particular county they wrote a report, handed me the report, gave me a number. There was zero desire for follow-up, to apprehend, to provide any kind of reassurance. And I guarantee you I will never go back to that particular county or that particular state park. And if we look at our tourism and how that affects Martin County, we don't want that kind of, we want that reassurance that, if those criminals are to come to Martin County, that there's some reassurance that we're going to try to catch them. And statistically, like you said, you have and you would. And I wouldn't go back to that particular county. So that's the expectation that I have as the standards that we have set in Martin County. So I appreciate all the work of you and your fine law enforcement officers. And we have a couple lights on up here. Commissioner Campy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sheriff, thank you very much, and to your team. I wrote my notes down so I could quickly make my point. I come from a family of law enforcement. Many years, my wife's grandfather, father, 3 brothers, nephews are all in law enforcement, so it's near and dear to our family. But for everyone else that's listening, I wanted to send a clear message to our residents and visitors, and also to anyone who would come here to cause us any harm, that we support the sheriff and his outstanding team of professionals. When you do a great job, and you guys do it, I think every single day, I think some citizens start to think that we live in a very safe area and there's really no need for these type of increases. But I think what happens, and most people get this, is that it's because as a result of what you and your team are doing, that we are safe and secure. It's not the opposite. It's not that we happen to live in the bucolic, Mayberry type of community. The reason people can feel safe and secure is because of your efforts. And when you do them very well, sometimes they're not as noticeable. And as Commissioner Hetherington had mentioned, it is not, look, your success would be that your residents would feel safe and sound and not be afraid to walk the streets or to leave their car somewhere, or, if you left your garage door open overnight, it doesn't mean that there aren't people that would come to try to take advantage of that situation. I think residents here, we always say, well, when some bad person comes from out of town, we might have a couple of homegrown folks here as well, but I think they understand, whether it was you or your predecessors, that doesn't fly here. And I think you've done a remarkable job. It's 24 hours a day, it's 7 days a week. Crime and bad people and bad situations don't ever take a rest, so you never can. And I know you just touched upon it briefly about the mental health and the trauma, the post-traumatic stress trauma that your officers and your personnel and fire rescue have to go through. And I'm very much appreciative that you are really taking that very seriously, because I think that's probably one of the, beyond a bad guy pointing a gun or trying to assault your officers, I think that's probably right behind this as one of the most dangerous issues that your personnel would have to face. And it's sneaky and it's diabolical and it's clever. And so for you to use some of the funding and personnel and techniques to protect your staff from these issues, it's just as important as issuing a bulletproof vest or armored protection or the vehicles and the equipment that you give them, to give them the ability to reach out for assistance. I know you've always done it, but to really step it up. In Palm Beach County, they just recently again lost a member of their fire rescue team to suicide, and so it's something that maybe the residents aren't thinking about, but we are. And so I just wanted to let you know that in Martin County, we do fund law enforcement. We don't defund them. And if you're looking for an increase that I completely agree you and your team have scrutinized and come forward with a 6.5% increase, I want to, I can speak only on behalf of myself. I want your team to know that I support you. I want the residents to know that I support you. And I want the bad people to know that we support you. So I make a motion to accept the sheriff's budget as presented. Hashtag wrong exit. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hurton.
Yeah, Sheriff, I'm glad that you got back from your vacation that ended poorly. I hope that you mend well. What's the term of your current labor contract, and what annual salary increases are included?
We are finishing our last of 3-year contract.
Okay.
So the next time we sit down with the bargaining unit, we'll be negotiating for another period of time yet to be determined. And the second question was, the increase was a 2% COLA, which paralleled the firefighter contract, and also funded us the step plan. So we didn't layer in anything other than that. If the firefighters hadn't gotten a COLA, we would have come in flat, except for the step plan.
What's the step?
We have a
It's a 5%.
5%.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant how many steps.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Smith.
Sheriff, good morning. A couple things. Thank you as always. And, good to see you back, sort of in one piece. Just more of a couple comments. Number one, had the opportunity last week to meet with our new mall manager. We've had sort of a regular turnover over there in our staff, or their staff. He was very much appreciative of already the reach out from you all to him, and I made it perfectly clear to him that that is an enormous asset and a deterrent for us sometimes, and that to make sure that his communication with you all is very, very open, and he very much appreciated that, and I think your folks have already reached out in some form or fashion. But I said, we've had some challenges in the last year and a half plus, with some folks that wanted to do some things out at the mall, and I said, rest assured, our department is probably one of the best in the business, if not the best in the business, and they were all over it. And so do not hesitate for a second to reach out to you all. I mean, that's what I shared with him. He was most appreciative, and I don't know that he's had an entire mall to manage before and such a large property, but I assured him that you all have it completely under control. So that was a good thing. I think to Stacy's point, the issue about technology, and I think of where I started years ago and where we are today, and the problems that Commissioner Heatherington had on her vacation, and we used to have at our beach on a regular occasion. We don't seem to have as much as anymore, although if we could keep cars from flying through the air into our beach concession area, that would be nice. But you and your staff have done a remarkable job kind of getting out in front of so much of what was a problem for us out there. And for our residents, all of us talk in our own kind of way of how it impacts us, both as our district, but as the job we do as commissioner. And, the reality is at the end of the day, this stuff is expensive. But as Commissioner Heatherington said, our residents have an incredibly high expectation that we live in a great place, which I think is also part and parcel of why you see the property values reflected that we do, and we get to see the increases that we get to see as a result of that. And it's by no small part for you and your team of the things you all do to keep us the great place we are. So thank you for everything you've done. You have built, I'd say in your last 8-9 years, whichever one it was, a remarkable team. It's amazing. I think, again, I think of where I started and where we are today, and the technology you've brought forward, and the folks that are pulling it off is nothing short of amazing. And our residents expect that, and you always continue to deliver. And so there is a cost for that, and it's a lot. But I like Ed as well, would say I never have any qualms approving your budget with what you ask for, because the delivery of what you all pull off and give our residents is worth every cent that we pay for. So thank you very much.
Madam Chair, with your permission.
Yes, go
I
ahead.
want to touch real quick on the mall. When we got here 8 years ago, I became concerned immediately that mall was under so much pressure from a culture north of us that's not quite Martin County-esque. And so every time there's a holiday, we don't charge the mall, we don't nickel and dime, they pay a lot of taxes. We put COP in there, we put the tower in there, we put other technological pieces in play. And we've been blessed for years now. I could count on one hand. John, help me. But I don't think we've had negligible crime in that parking lot, including not just the big crimes, which we worry about, the purse snatches, I lose sleep over, but car burglaries. We don't want that mall closing. The orange blossom effect from north of here. I saw that. That could have happened to us. And we fight like the Dickens in there not to let it go.
Well, and I didn't call out exactly what it was, because it's not worth giving it its credit, but the threat we had out there last year that was going to be significant if it had manifested itself. You all were all over that thing, and it never happened.
Yep.
And there's a reason for that. So, again, thank you. Our residents thank you, and I sincerely myself appreciate every bit of it.
Thank you. Commissioner Jenkins.
So I have a bumper sticker in my office that says Martin County's different. And I think that's a positive thing. Martin County is different. And Martin County Sheriff's Department is different. And I think the smarter of the criminal element recognize that. And it's another reason why we're so safe. And I appreciate everything you do and anything I can do to support you. So.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay,
I never spike the ball. I never do. Every day we wake up, we got to fight it off. How many did we have last night, John? 10 car burglaries in or schools placed. Now, I will go on record and saying the likelihood is we're going to catch them, but we don't sleep.
Welcome to the love train. Right.
And I also want to compliment your community policing division because they are everywhere, and we appreciate seeing them. So we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campy to tentatively approve the sheriff's budget, and seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all for being here today, and I'm going to give us just a couple-minute recess so we can clear out the green in the audience. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you all very much.
You're on.
Yeah, let's say that.
I'll
Yeah, the slide will help us.
set. You'll go through.
Hot mic.
Hot mic.
Hot mic.
It was a good place. I mean, at least I think.
That was just.
Moffett.
Okay, good morning and welcome back from our recess for our July 19th budget workshop. We just completed our constitutional officer, our sheriff's office was here, and we're going to continue with our constitutionals. We do not have presentations for each of the items, so I'm just going to go down the list. If anyone has any questions on a particular constitutional officers, then we can relay that to them. I did want to acknowledge this morning we had our Chief Judge Schwab in the gallery joining us, so thank you for joining us. So we have our clerk of court budget. We're gonna do them one at a time. Can we bundle them?
You can bundle them.
Okay.
We just need tentative approval if everybody's comfortable. I know some of the constitutionals did reach out to the commissioners to see if there was any questions.
Is everybody okay bundling, or does anybody want to pull any of them? Okay, so we'll have the Commissioner Campy, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd make a motion to accept the tentative budgets as proposed by our constitutionals. They've all done a remarkable job. They're fiscal conservatives and duly elected on their own, so I feel that as their budgets come forward, that they are the perfect people to make those determinations. Their budgets are, in my opinion, legitimate, so I make the motion to accept tentative budget.
Okay, great. Well, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy to approve the remaining constitutional officers, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, and that completes our constitutional officers. And moving on to our administration and Office of Community Development, presented by Jennifer Manning.
Okay, so I will just briefly, as I mentioned earlier, we will just give a brief summary of each department, and if there are questions, we will pause and, allow for questions. Thanks. So the Department of Administration, the budget is roughly $12 million. It's an increase of $1.2 million roughly, and they're requesting 5 additional FTE, and the slides that follow will identify the notable changes in each division. So first of all, we have administration, which is a slight increase of $6,000, $6,500. And an Office of Management budget, slight increase as well, $1,367. Commission is also just a difference from the previous year, $48,000. Human Resources and Risk Management is requesting an additional $170,000, and they're requesting 1 additional FTE, fire rescue specialist. Purchasing is requesting an additional position. Their increase is $75,120. The FTE for first purchasing is also a converted contracted position. Communications is asking for an additional $215,000. They need a public information officer, 1 FTE, which was transferred. Okay, the public information office FTE was transferred from fire rescue into this division. That's part of the increase. The executive aide from administration was transferred to communications during FY21. Human Services is requesting an additional increase their budget by $415,000. There is an additional FTE, which is funded through grant services for a senior case manager, and which is a contractual staff in conversion at this point. The legislative area of our budget is a slight increase of $3,213. Office of Tourism has an increase of $243,000, but that is based on projections in their bed tax. The Office of Community Development has requested an additional $72,000, of which $50,000 is for a one-time historical preservation site survey, and it'll be funded through the general fund. And that concludes administration.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I'm looking at Administration Commission. There's a cell phone stipend of $2,100 and communication cell phones for $1,700. Why are there cell phone charges in commission?
We'll have to look that up. Cell phone charges.
I don't know. We did have a commissioner that had a cell phone that was assigned to them by the county. Now that you asked that question, I'm not sure if anybody else has it. Chloe's in legislative.
It's a coding.
Oh, coding.
We'll get an answer for you, Commissioner.
Okay. And also Human Resources and Risk Management, the fire rescue specialist.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
Yes, we have Matt Graham here for Human Resources. As you know, fire rescue is one of the largest, it's your largest department here in the county, and they've got roughly 360 employees, if I'm thinking off the top of my head. Matt, you want to address the issues you're having?
Yes, ma'am. Matthew Graham, HR Director. Currently there's one payroll specialist now for the 360 staff members. So they also handle all the POs. So we believe having an additional staff person to assist in that area would be beneficial.
Also, I'm looking under Human Resources and Risk Management under other contractual services staffing. Went from last year $11,000 to $53,000. Can you tell me what that is?
Yes, ma'am. We've had contracted staff throughout the year since I've been here. It hasn't been a budgeted item. So we've put that in the budget as this has been an ongoing need in our department.
Okay. Purchasing, what's the additional person for?
Ms.
Have
Brotherton?
Ms. Brotherton to present that.
That's a conversion of an existing contracted.
Correct, yeah, we currently have a purchasing technician position that is contracted, so we're asking to make that a full-time position.
Okay. Communications, regular salaries went from $342,000 to $488,000.
Yes, we transferred a position over from fire rescue. There was a public information officer position, which we moved from there. We also moved an executive aide from upstairs down to communications as well to assist them. Ms. Beaupre's here. This area has taken on a large increase in workload just to keep communications effective.
Yes, that's correct. And the two positions are positions that were just elsewhere. When we had a retirement, we had somebody who was working in administration and communications, now completely in communications. So that was the difference there. And then obviously the fire rescue, the public information officer position that was moved.
But the number of total FTEs stayed the same.
Because we made the change as an adjustment during FY '21. Yeah, we physically moved the bodies into the office, but we did not have the budget. We did not move the dollars until they actually, this budget.
Correct.
That's why it's the
So
same.
they're not
Would have been
new
6.
positions to the county, they're just location, I guess.
Okay, thanks.
I just have a follow-up question, Laura, while you're still there. So when we add these additionals, on the performance measures for communications, are those the only 3 that we measure? Produce annual report, publish county connection newsletter, and reach residents through county Facebook page?
Well, we're constantly measuring a lot of things, but these are the 3 items that are under our purview in the budget itself. But we have, obviously a lot of different kinds of measurements that we do, especially for social media and engagement and all that sort of thing.
And how is our new communication strategic plan?
It's coming along very well. It's coming along very well. We've met a lot of the milestones, the pieces that are in it. We had, if you recall, kind of a sort of a setup of anticipated timeline for a lot of these things, and we've gotten almost everything done that would be this year done already, and a couple things for next year as
So
well.
it's been
so far so good.
implemented.
Yes.
And are we still using contractual services for communications?
Yes, for larger, for a couple larger campaign type things, but yes.
One thing I would like to see is when we start these public works projects, is to make sure that our residents are communicated. And I know that we've been working on it and we've made leaps and bounds, but to continue to make those be on the proactive end of educating and letting the residents know that these neighborhood restoration projects and
Oh, yes,
septic to
and
sewer
people-
projects are coming.
And people have been very they've been doing a great job with that. George Zama's group has been working with actually our outside vendor as well as internal staff on sending out postcards at all the different phases. They've been really doing a good job at that.
The program they put together is fantastic. It really is excellent. So, okay, thank you. Does anyone?
I have one more question. On legislative, travel and per diem, $24,000, what does that include? And computer supplies of $5,400, what does that include?
Well, that is the one position that travels to Tallahassee regularly during session, and then also goes to, when warranted, will go to some of the more national association conferences where they're discussing legislative priorities. So the travel and training is covered under that line item. That individual also has a laptop that requires them to have cellular service applied to that laptop, and so they also have a cell phone as well. And so those are all expenses that are really part of the operation of one individual taking on your legislative component. And then they manage the contracts that we have outside lobbying firms. They manage that. She manages that as well.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for Ms. Manning? Commissioner Smith.
That just kind of sparked a question, Taryn. Do you know when those contracts come up? The lobbying contracts?
Well, they vary. I don't.
They're not all.
I'm looking over at Christie. I don't think they all come due at the same time. In fact, we had one that just was on the verge to expire.
Christy Brotherton, I believe they renew each year, all at the same time, usually I believe in September, I want to say, but I can definitely verify and get you that information.
We don't normally RFP them, if I remember.
No.
They don't require, per our purchasing guidelines, because it's lobbying services, we're able to engage individuals specifically. We don't have to go out for proposals.
Can you just get us an update as to like where we are? And I know who we have and I know what we're doing.
Sure.
I'm concerned that in the next couple of years, we may need to have some changes, at least at our federal level.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think I think we need to be thinking about how we do that. Thank you.
Sure. Be happy to do that.
Ms. Manning, if I'm reading the spreadsheet of the budget history, so from the 2021 adopted budget to the 2022 tentative, there's an increase in this department in 10.7%.
Yes, that's correct.
That's one of the larger increases in the department. So I think that
Well, transferring positions over from other departments, that two of those, I don't know what percentage that would represent, but we had that happen. Stephanie, you probably know the numbers.
Stephanie Murley. Also contained in the administration budget is the big armor inmate medical increase that's in the medical services
Health
division.
and Human Services, yeah. And Michelle Miller's here. She can address that if you need.
okay. Anyone else have any questions? I'm gonna come back to the board and look for a motion to
Is that tentative?
tentative. Yep. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jenkins, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 3-2 with Commissioner Hurd and Hetherington dissenting. Okay, moving on to
We did that.
growth.
Yeah, we did.
We're going to do departmental growth management. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay, so Department of Growth Management Department is requesting an increase. It is an increase of 126,557. There's no notable changes. This is basically the cost for salaries and no operational changes.
And retirements.
And do you have any questions on growth management?
Anyone have any questions?
Motion to accept the tentative budget proposal for growth management.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion for the tentative budget approval for growth management by Commissioner Campy, seconded with Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The airport budget is $1.8 million. So the increase is just $20,953. There is no notable changes in this department.
Okay, anyone have questions on the airport? Back to the board. Okay, motion by Commissioner Smith for tentative approval of the airport, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The building department has an increase of $360,000. They're requesting 2 FTEs, a construction inspector and a code compliance investigator, and a new vehicle. And in the presentation today, I mentioned the increase in their building permit, but about 22%. Is Larry here?
Yep.
Commissioner Campy.
I'll wait until Mr. Mass.
Good morning, Mr. Massing.
You guys moving faster than
Yes. Go ahead, Commissioner Campy.
I just wanted to say that, first off, I'll make a motion to accept the tentative budget as presented. And I think as the projects, Pineland Prairie, now called Newfield out in Palm City, and as that starts to come online and some of our other projects, I think this is one of the areas where our public and our professional, our residential public and our professional public interface with our county staff, and I think that Mr. Massing and his team have done a very good job. But as the workload grows, I think it's important that we maintain the proper staffing there and the professional staffing there, because it's a customer service driven department, and our residents expect to have complete, accurate, and timely review of their applications and projects, which has happened. But it's not going to be Mr. Massing's fault, as if the workload increases, we maintain the same staff. It's complicated work that, as we've seen sadly elsewhere in the state of Florida, if we don't do the reviews, when the projects are being built, if we don't follow up with inspections on as they need to be, and I'm assuming legislation will change at the state level, and we should probably be looking at our own requirements. I think it's important that we staff this, that we fund this department appropriately. So that's why I make the motion.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So Larry, and I agree with everything Ed just said, so I don't have to say all that. The building permit increase that you're seeing, is that new? Is that, I mean, when I say new housing, or is that permitting for things being done to houses?
A little bit of both. We had a 4,000 permit increase since doing the statistics from June of last year to July of this year and the year prior. We crossed the 20,000 permit threshold, which in my tenure here has never happened. Even at our height, we were at about 17,000 permits. So we just recently crossed the threshold. We had 4,000 more residential permits this year than we did last year. 200 new housing starts. But
Everything else is associated with remodels and trade permits for residential, but 200 new starts over the year before.
So out of the 4,000, right?
Mhm.
200 of them were new
New structure.
structures versus somebody comes in for an air conditioning permit or a rehab to a roof or something.
That's correct.
I don't know if this is like the right place to bring it up. I always use sort of like, gee, I'll use this as an opportunity. And I probably should have brought it up in growth management on the piece before.
Bring him back.
Huh?
We can get him back.
No, don't need to. There's seemingly an awful lot of confusion, the reason why I asked that, Larry, is that not that tens of thousands of people will watch this and go, oh, I get it, I understand what's going on. There seems to be a lot of confusion in the community as to what's being built and who's building it, and where is that happening. And so I probably should have blended this between growth management and the building department. Just the stream of consciousness happened when you were sitting there, so it's your fault. I think it would be super helpful for us to have sort of an update as to who's doing what and where, so that our residents understand. We have clearly on Green River Parkway, on the corner of Jensen Beach Boulevard, there's a huge clearing going on right now that everybody I hear from believes that it's us doing that, the county. It is not. It is the city. And I think I asked the question at our joint meeting, what was going up, and we didn't even really get a clear answer as to what was being built. So I don't know if they're single-family homes, multi-family units, whatever. So in order to be able to answer our residents and tell them who's doing what and where and what's even happening, I think it would be helpful, Taryn, to have sort of a joint presentation from both Larry and growth management, and maybe not so much Larry, but you're here, so I'm taking advantage of that, as to exactly who's doing what and where. Something else that's important that I think residents would want to know, where the clearing line is at Green River Parkway, south of that was a former development that was called the Gables, that probably 10, 12 years ago. We, the county, decided to take our sales tax money and purchase that so that it wouldn't be turned into more condos. And so it's in preservation, even though it's in the city limits, the county acquired it. I don't know about the rest of you, but I think it would be incredibly helpful for our staff to put something together that was comprehensive so that we could at least share with the public who's doing what, where those lines are different, how that affects Larry's shop in terms of his permitting process. And when we say 4,000 permits, it's not 4,000 new homes. It's 200 homes versus hundreds or thousands of other
3,800 other types.
In addition, I love the suggestion. I think that we should do it comprehensively and consistently. So we should have that being presented
Our communications department.
to us even, every quarter or so that we know, our residents, I know that we all received that email on that property you're talking about, Jensen Beach Boulevard, and I had no idea what was being planned there because that was not our body that approved that. So I think comprehensively and more consistently coming back to us.
And if we can work with communications to put in a form where the general public can
understand it,
can comprehend it, yes.
Well, we obviously want the city of Stewart to prove they are a separate government entity. They don't come to us and ask us. I'm looking at Mr. Donaldson.
That's part of the. I would say my concern from what our residents are seeing, we have a joint meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We get a narrow slice of a presentation as to what is wanting to be presented,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not getting the entire picture. And so people don't know, we don't know exactly. That's why I asked that question, because I had been told probably 2 years ago that D.R. Horton was buying that property on the corner and they were going to build houses. And then when I asked the question, I got kind of a I'm not sure answer, and I don't know if they're building townhomes, houses, what they're building. And so if we don't know from our own staff, what we know is going to get built, then we're not communicating to the general public, I don't think, that may or may not watch our meetings or understand fully what exactly is happening and who's doing what.
Sure.
Mr. Donaldson.
County Administrator, I just was taking this quick opportunity to say that we are getting ready to launch a new tool on our website that shows all of the current projects in Martin County. And we're specifically having graphics that exclude the municipalities, so we can at least better communicate what we are doing. So on the taking off on the suggestion of having a presentation on what the county is doing, I think we are trying to update a tool for everybody to access, so can see what's currently in review, what's been recently approved, so you can see at least what the county is responsible for, how we communicate what's happening in the city. We can have further dialogue, but I just wanted to put out there that I think it'll be coming out this week. Your executive aides will be having a chance to see it, and I think it'll be a useful for all of us.
And then periodically, if if our staff could just do a brief report on what is happening in the city, because when we get those questions from our constituents, then we should know at least what's occurring, even though we're not making those decisions. Commissioner Hearn?
Yeah, I completely concur. In my neck of the woods, 9 out of 10 inquiries that I get are about the development behind Aldi and Walmart, and also the one on Commerce in Indian Street, and their residents complaining about the county approving those developments. So I spend most of my time explaining that we are not responsible for, nor do we have jurisdiction over the decisions made by the city. Mr. Massing, so last year, 200 new home permits. How does that compare with the boom days of 2003, 2004, 2005?
While I didn't really analyze the boom days,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking it's probably a little bit less than what was going on in those days.
Wow. It seemed like there were 1,000 new permits a year back in those days.
It was like 1,000, 1,200
Yeah.
residential units that we were building back then.
Big developments. Now it's isolated. It's infill.
Correct.
At least in my neighborhood, there's a home being constructed here, and then a mile away is another one. I don't see any developments going up. Thanks.
Commissioner Smith?
Larry, I'm sorry again that we hijacked your item. Don, one other thing, I don't think I need a full-blown engineered analysis. It would be helpful with those new developments and what's occurring, both if it's county or if it's city, what infrastructure is also going to be needed to support it on the that we don't even know yet. One that we talked about, Sarah talked about this at our last joint meeting, and I still do not believe that we have the faintest handle on what's going to happen is on Indian and Commerce at that interchange as you come north off of Commerce. That's, in my opinion, that's going to have to be an entirely different intersection than what we see today. But I think we need to start planning or thinking or understanding with the city, but for our own purposes, what part of that are we going to be having to look at 2 years from now, 5 years from now, financially, in terms of developing a new interchange, or intersection, if that's what's going to be required. So anyway, it's as much as it is helping our residents understand who's doing what and where, I think it's also understanding the financial impacts of what may be coming that we have yet really to be addressing.
Ideally, we'd like to understand those as those other municipalities are going about approving them, so that we might be able to weigh in some way.
I think our David Farmer model may be one of the tools that will help advance
You got to talk in the mic.
The David Farmer model that we had looking with growth management might be one of the tools that can help us keep up with that forward thinking, as opposed to relying on MPO models and periodic lookbacks.
We're going to need them.
Thank you
Okay.
for hijacking your.
My motion still stands.
Oh, you have. We do have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campy,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Jenkins for the tentative approval of the building department budget. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving
Thank you,
on
Larry Massey.
now to the county attorney.
County attorney is also pretty benign, an increase of 27,341. There's no notable changes.
Jennifer, speak a little bit more into your mic, please.
Sorry. The county attorney's budget is a 27,341 increase. There are no notable changes.
Can we hear from?
Okay, questions? Fire away.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you for your support.
All right. Commissioner Jenkins made a motion for tentative approval, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
So county attorney, you're short a position and you're not going to fill it?
We're looking at those options. We've got to develop the advertisement. We are going to fill it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, our next department is fire rescue.
Hey, fire rescue, the difference from last year's budget is $2.3 million. There is no additional FTE requests. The notable item for increase includes operational changes and full funding for additional positions in communications dispatch and added in FY21, just last week.
Okay. Questions? Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah. What's the term of the labor contract, and what are the annual salary increases that are included in that contract?
Matt Resch, Fire Rescue Administrator. So we are entering the second of a 3-year term contract. There's a 2% COLA and then the STEP plan as well.
What's a step?
Steps are 6%
On their anniversary day.
on their anniversary, correct?
So 8% a year?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Coming back to the board, looking, yes, Commissioner Campy.
I think this goes along with the conversation we had this morning with our sheriff. I've said it in the past, I believe that our residents would expect the first dollar of their taxes to go to public safety. That includes public safety from the sheriff's perspective, but also, and probably more likely, going to be public safety from our fire rescue professionals. So I'd make a motion to accept the tentative budget.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campy for the tentative fire rescue budget, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
A motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting. Moving on now to general services.
Hey, general services is a $10 million budget. Their increase is $397,000. And most of the increase is operational. Part of it is for a vehicle replacement program, which is based on revenues that is received throughout the years. And we're just increasing the budget by the amount of vehicles that we need to buy. And then $151,000 in operational cost of doing business.
Okay, Commissioner Campy.
Questions for the department head?
Jeff Darty, General Services Director.
Mr. Doherty, good morning.
Good morning.
How many vehicles do you currently have in your fleet that you're responsible for?
Just under 300.
300 vehicles, from cars to pickup trucks to equipment, correct?
Equipment-wise, we have a total of 800 vehicles, range from cars up to heavy-duty pickup trucks, quad cabs, four-wheel drives, three-quarter ton, all the way down to regular four-door vehicles that you drive and commute in.
Okay, so the vehicle replacement program, and then the other, you said you, with other equipment, you go up to 800 pieces of equipment.
Could be lawn mowers and all types
Not like a little push mower like someone would have at their home. You're talking Dixie.
riding lawn mowers, special cutting equipment that you may use for ditches with arms coming out, and all types of things.
Most of us only spend our time thinking about vehicles, cars and trucks for the most part. And I think anyone that's read the newspaper or listened to the news understands that the automobile market is just crazy. Used cars cost a fortune. It costs a fortune to rent cars currently, because there was a big glut a couple of years ago as the pandemic was starting, that all of the rental car companies unloaded hundreds of thousands of vehicles, and now we're reaping the ramifications of those decisions. Used car market is a fortune. New car market is a fortune. Leasing cars is a fortune. So I think although I'm leery of a large $250,000 increase, I think it's logical and it makes sense. And although we wish you didn't have to do it, you have no choice but to operate in the circumstances that we're currently in. So I would make a motion to accept the general services tentative budget.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Campy for the General Services tentative budget, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to information technology and the technology investment plan.
Okay, the total budget for information technology is for roughly $4.2 million, an increase of $333,728. There is a request for 3 additional FTEs. The staff additions to support, there's one for to support fire rescue, finance, and the clerk of the court and comptroller, and an information security, cybersecurity individual.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on information technology services? Seeing none, I'll looking for a tentative motion of approval.
Same notion as the sheriff this morning about the pirates?
That was good.
I'm not in that business, Commissioner, but I'm sorry, Mike Merker, Chief Information Officer, for the record.
Hampton Inn last night.
I mean, I can sit here and go, "R," if that would.
Very good.
Good. So looking, okay, motion by Commissioner Smith for tentative approval of information technology services, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting. And now we are on to library.
Okay, for the library,
Could we skip over
did
the?
you want to go, because I thought, yeah, I thought if it didn't have anything. it was-
Technology investment plan. Okay.
The first one was the teaser.
Okay. I
Second.
announced them both in the beginning. My apologies. Okay.
Okay, so the total budget for technology investment plan is $8 million roughly, and there's an increase of $182,000. And the notable increase is for new hardware and software and or acquisition.
This is where the pirates are.
Yes.
Okay.
Move
Back to the board. Okay. Move a motion for tentative approval by Commissioner Jenkins, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion for technology investment plan was approved unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Now, we move on to library.
Okay, so the library budget is $4.4 million, an increase of $149,808. There's no additional FTE requests. There is other contractual service staffing, and which is a $22,000 increase for part-time staff to implement library services for older adults, including residents that are homebound and living in assisted living facilities. And this is a very interesting slide, and I think Jen would like to
Elaborate.
speak to that if she.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jen Salas, Library Director. If I can take a moment just to kick off our long-range services plan for older adults services in libraries. We have been visiting assisted living facilities through Library Foundation funding right now, and the picture that you see is at the Cabana at Jensen Dunes. We do a virtual reality memory care program. We're also at the Kane Center, and we'll be expanding to Brookdale and Addington Place in the next coming weeks. It's a fabulous program. We're working with different types of caregivers and their patients to help with memory loss. And so we set them up with these VR headsets, and they're able to see anything that might have come from their past. So if they traveled to a different country, we'll take them back there. We had one veteran who was a pilot, and we were able to put him back into an airplane in a cockpit and be able to experience that again. So it's a fabulous program. Thank you to the Library Foundation. But these are the types of things that we're excited about moving forward in older adult services.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is really fantastic. Commissioner Campy.
Thank you. I didn't realize how you were going to make your presentation this morning, but I had been speaking to a couple of folks that have recently gone into nursing homes, and they said one of the most difficult things is they had to give up their daily routines, and one of their daily routines or weekly routines was to go to their library. And, I didn't really think about it, and it just goes to show you how things fall into place, that your increase is to start to reach out to nursing homes. I don't think most people, when they're thinking about our libraries, they're thinking about destinations, especially, the pandemic changes everything. I know that you worked with that to make sure that people could have the ability to get books, just like restaurants now bring stuff out to the cars and deliver and all those other things. So for you and your team to go beyond the four walls of their facilities and dig deeper into the community, I think is remarkable. So I commend you for that, and I would move approval of your tentative budget.
Right. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy for tentative approval of the library budget, seconded by Commissioner Smith. Yes.
So is there and not for the right word or the wrong word, is there a library of the virtual, are there tens of thousands of virtual experiences that people can get? Or do you individualize it to each one and somehow it's created?
So we have contracted through a company called Mind VR, and they focus on senior centers. So all of the videos within the library of videos that we have, there's a variety of them. So you can walk through botanical gardens, you can visit different countries, you can go into a shark tank, you can skydive. And one of the fun stories about the program at the Kane Center is that we were trying to do very quiet, calm videos, thinking that's what would appeal to the residents or the adult daycare center people, and they were like, wait, you can do skydiving? We want to do that. So it's been really fun, but we have, and they keep adding content through the subscription.
So is it digital or is it real?
It's real video that they have shot that they put into like a 360 view, so you can look up and down and sideways, and it's really interesting. I would love to share it with you if you are interested.
Yes.
A couple more years, Doug, you'll be able to use it.
That's great. Super.
And with that, I forgot who made the motion.
I
Okay.
made the second.
Oh, and you seconded? Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Jen.
Now, you could have done down with this guy.
Now, we are moving right along to Parks and Recreation.
Okay, Parks and Recreation is a $13.1 million budget, an increase of $729,019. There are no requests for additional FTEs. The notable items is the Jensen Beach Mooring Field, which is 144,859 requests, and Seaside Cafe, $294,500, which is budgeted through recreation fees, covered by fees charged.
Okay, question on parks? Nope. Commissioner Hurd, and we have a motion as well.
I'm looking at under recreation programs, and I'm looking at food, which is going from 46,000 to 131,000.
That's under the recreation programs budget. We list as one of the accounts the Seaside Cafe operation, so that's where it's listed.
Okay.
Commissioner Camping.
Mr. Abate, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
I had heard some positive news recently about how it's going at the Sailfish Splash Water Park. Would you use this opportunity to share that good news with everyone else, please?
Well, couple things. This last weekend we hosted the Junior Olympics and had several hundred kids show up for our future Junior Olympians. And relative to the water park, as Mrs. Manning mentioned, the water park this is actually a great accomplishment. We've actually are, as of this morning, almost 400,000 to the good in revenue. So we are trending really well to have a really phenomenal year.
Thank you. Another question for you. When we first opened the pool, the competitive side, actually the whole facility, we, as you remember, the pool is celebrating its 10th anniversary, correct?
Correct.
Back then, we designed and constructed the pool with a lot of very specific site selection criteria that the state of Florida high schools, the Florida State High School Athletic Association, they have their swimming and diving championships, and we designed that facility to meet those criteria that would give us a strong leg up on competing communities. And normally historically that contract would be for 3 years, correct?
Correct.
So we got that in the beginning for 3 years, and then what happened?
We had an extension for 2 more. We put out another request for proposal. We were the highest ranking facility in Florida for another 3-2, and we're on year number 9 of a 10 year. So we have 2 1-year extensions left, and then we'll try to bid on it again.
Now, in your expertise and knowledge, has that ever happened anywhere else in the state of Florida, where
Not
someone
for-
got
not for high school sports.
9 consecutive years?
Not for high school sports, to my knowledge.
Okay, and when we're not competing against, we have 160,000 residents, we're not competing against just other communities of our size. This is a statewide event, correct?
Yeah, we outbid and outscored Orlando and Sarasota last time around.
And in years past, I know Gainesville, Tallahassee, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Jacksonville, Tampa, correct?
They've all have attempted to outperform us.
So 9 out of the last 10 years. And the first year is because we were brand new.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And they don't just come to the pool and go get in their cars and drive all the way home, correct? What do they do after the swimming is over?
The average, there's 2 weekends of swimming. We have all the different divisions for the 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. And they arrive on Wednesday for a warm-up, and then compete on the next 2 days over the kind of a 5-day weekend. And on average, we normally get about 8,000 for the 2 weekends that visit us and stay up for that period of time.
8,000. They go to restaurants, they stay in hotels, they buy gas, they buy other things that they need. Some of them fall in love with the community, move here. Would you say that's accurate?
I don't know anyone personally. The good story I can tell you about the water park is Caleb Dressel has set his record at our facility for the fastest time in the U.S., and he's our number 1 swimmer for the Olympics coming up in the next week.
Okay, so just to clarify, look, there are plenty of people that still would say that it's a boondoggle, that it was a failure, that it was unnecessary. What do you say to the people that would say that to you?
After being here for 10 years, I've always been a supporter of this great facility. It is it's an amazing facility for this county and all that it does and all that it brings to everyone.
Well, I appreciate all your efforts and the team. Yes, thank you. I just, I'm not kidding. The numbers speak for themselves, and sometimes when you've delivered budgets where we might have had to put in a couple of dollars here and there, I think it's important that people understand there is a larger economic impact for the entire community that doesn't go to your bottom line, but goes to the collective bottom line. So I'm half, making this in jest, but it was not a mistake. It was something that, never mind hundreds of young people and older people that get an opportunity to work there. and how many swimming teams. We have our own clubs and teams and programs that you run, but then there's also some private organizations that run, and they send kids to the nationals, to Olympic trials, and probably to the Olympics. So I just, when people want to bash that as like the fun whipping boy project, I just want people to understand that it actually worked out very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Campy. Commissioner Smith.
Along that line, didn't IRC just get designated as the something swim?
Indian River State College was designated by USA Swimming as their future Hall of Fame site, and they're planning some big plans in the Treasure Coast.
And so I thought, Ed, where you were starting off in your conversation in the prior planning that we did for the site, it was anticipated originally that we were going to do a dive well as part of the project. I don't know where we are in a conversation relative to that these days. I know I've had some conversation with the Economic Council. They have it on their priority list of bringing that back. So I would love to get that back on our agenda to talk about. And I wished we had done it 10 years ago, but we didn't. And there were reasons why we didn't. But I think it's time, especially given what IRSC has just been designated and the success that you've had with the swimming events, to broaden what you're already doing there. So I'd like to see that at some point come back.
Well, the dive well also brings in a lot of opportunities for college and university spring training events that would love to have come and used our facility in the winter months when it's not as busy with local residents, but the lack of a dive well has hurt us in that regard. It is something that's always been sort of on the drawing board, but it was something that is expensive, and I think we needed to have the legitimate track record of success that we've had under our belts so that we could do that. I wasn't prepared to dive into it today, but I don't mind talking about it.
Well, we can include it in our CIP for development for the next year, and then figure out, it's going to come down to funding, obviously, and what those priorities are. So I think putting it...
Joint funded thing.
Yeah, but I think putting it in the CIP is a good first step.
I would just, all I wanted to do is just seed the conversation so that we could formalize a conversation, because we haven't really actually talked as a board about it, and I think it would be good now with the 10 years worth of history we have over there that you've done. I think that should be next on our big list.
I think probably during the CIP would be a nice chance to have a holistic discussion about expansion of parks and how we're going to pay to maintain, some of these. And, if we're building new and expanding, are we also offsetting that by putting in funds to maintain these? That's my concern. So, Commissioner Hearn.
Yeah, I'm looking at revenue classifications, and there's a revenue classification of $184,716 from Sailfish Splash, but the operating expenses are $1.4 million. I see revenues. Where are the rest of the revenues classified on the revenue classification?
I know the sheet is fairly new, but I think what you're seeing is a subsidy on there, the 184, and we plugged that in because we felt that it's hard to project these revenues for when you have not had a season operate. So, for example, as of this morning, we are $400,000 in net revenue today. We'll stop operating on Labor Day and carry our expenses through the end of September. That being said, I don't believe that this year will be on a subsidy. So that subsidy for the water park will not be used. But we do have to plan for one because we've had some off years, but this has been a great year. So, but no, since we've opened since day one, we've always said we've had some sort of a subsidy, but we've been able to exceed that goal. So that's a planned subsidy.
So this is expected to be an ad valorem subsidy?
Yes.
Why, tell me from an accounting perspective, why don't we actually put revenues in the revenue classification?
Stephanie.
It's pretty technical from an accounting standpoint, because technically the way this works is that we budget the revenues in the general fund, and it is a budgeted transfer to the Sailfish Splash Water Park Fund. I did notate it on the actual Sailfish Splash significant change at the bottom, that the general fund allocation for that park is estimated to be at 208,000 for the entire fund. But we are expecting about 1.1 million in revenues, which you'll see in the revenue classification as either special rec facility fees or other miscellaneous revenues. So it's technically like a roll-up of the whole department at the front there. So I can explain it in further detail when I have a computer in front of me. But
I just thought it was curious that I knew that they were embedded somewhere else. I just didn't know where, and it seemed to me that Sailfish Splash Water Park revenues of 184,000 is just silly.
State your name for the record, please.
Stephanie Murley, Budget Financial Manager.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, comes back to the board, looking for motion by Commissioner Smith for tentative approval of the parks budget. Seconded by Commissioner Campy. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, and up next is Public Works.
Okay, so an overview of Public Works. The total budget is a little over $20 million. There is an increase of $965,868. There is a request for additional 3 FTEs. And Public Works, there are no changes in funding for Administration Division, the MPO Division, the Capital Projects Division, Coastal Management, and so forth. So I'm going to let George, you want me to go through? Okay. Okay, so for traffic engineering, they're requesting a project manager to oversee the safety and striping programs. And in our overview this morning, I mentioned that we're replacing half of a grant that expired. We're going to phase it in. So this is $175,000 this year, and then we'll phase in the remaining amount next year. Development Review just has a $4,500 change. Stormwater maintenance, they're requesting STA, which is the stormwater treatment area, they're requesting $51,496. And engineering inspector. And we have field operations, and they're requesting enhancement of their landscape program in the amount of $45,600. They're requesting paving maintenance increase for $54,900, as well as an equipment operator too. Mosquito control is only $14,934 for East Fork Creek STA aquatic maintenance. Okay.
Commissioner Hurd.
So we're in Public Works Administration, we're adding a county engineer. Would you please explain that to me?
George Zama, Public Works Deputy Director. Yes, so we reorganized the structure of our budget to incorporate the county engineer into administration, because that position oversees 3 separate divisions and incorporate in lieu of that position was prior in the traffic division budget, so we moved it over.
Ms. Wixer's position.
Yeah, I just couldn't imagine that she was anyplace but in administration before.
Money well spent.
Yes.
So Public Works Administration, the salaries are going from $311,000 to $527,000?
With the transfer and other increases, yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we
Okay.
we changed the position. We added the senior grants and contracts coordinator.
Okay. Now I'm looking at capital projects, going from $818,000 last year to $988,000 this year. 20% increase.
Yes, we added staff to keep up with the level of service of our CIP program.
We reclassed this year, George, we're not mistaken, correct? We
Correct.
reclassed a vacant
That was reclassed
position.
this year, but we have support expenses with vehicles and
Well, we've also added a construction project inspector. Can you tell me why we've added that position?
to keep up with our construction, engineering, inspection services, quality assurance of our projects.
Is that an engineer?
No, it's an inspector. with, they get training for several FDOT certifications in
Okay.
advanced traffic control.
Okay, thanks.
We added in the capital improvement, right? The traffic striping person. How is that going? How many stop bars and lines of striping and crosswalks and things have we accomplished this year?
Hi, I'm Lisa Wixer, the county engineer. So we took over the traffic division took oversight of the pavement marking program. And so far, we have just started doing striping in-house. We took a little while, and that's why we're asking for the additional position. It took us a long time to get to where we are as far as getting the additional equipment, the material.
Is this in addition to the position that we allocated during the capital improvement? So now there's 2 positions?
No, you didn't. The 2 positions were added last year for the marking program in-house. We just filled them 2 weeks ago. We have all the material, we have the truck, we have the trailer, we have all the equipment needed, and we're ready to start tomorrow out in a neighborhood. So we have been working diligently with the contracted services and have done all of Zeus Park. We've done various neighborhoods that we have gone in and done striping, but that has not been done in-house yet.
So
Commissioner Jenkins.
thank you for stopping me from putting my foot in my mouth, because I was going to say that I experienced this whole, when apparently I didn't. So you can turn my light off now.
So does that mean that the small contractors have started responding to small striping projects?
Now, we had actually Luke Lambert was working more diligently because he had the time, but now we're finding he doesn't have the time, and the board in April chose to add funding for traffic safety programs, which is a lot of what he's been doing. So we determined we needed somebody else to help with that outreach. Commissioner Smith, we've been working with Skyline Heights for a year and a half at least. So it's just been difficult for us to keep up with all those little small projects that we do. We do turn lanes, traffic signal modifications, so it's traffic safety, striping, and data collection.
So by this time next year, we'll have an adequate accounting on how that particular position is working out.
Correct.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yes, as part of traffic safety, the residents of Rocky Point last week received their questionnaires about lowering the speed limits in all of Rocky Point. I'm very eager to see the results. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Okay. Any other questions from the board? We're looking for a motion for tentative approval. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith for tentative approval of the Public Works budget, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And we're moving on now to utilities and solid waste.
Okay, utilities and solid waste is a large budget, and for FY '22 tentative, it's 53 million, a little over 53 million. It's an increase of $6.1 million. Notable items for increase, there's an increase in the collection of processing of the solid waste and single stream recycling. They're requesting 1 FTE, household hazardous waste tech, which is will be used to stagger the shift to reduce overtime. There's an FTE for equipment operator 3, also to help reduce call-outs and overtime. In the utilities area, they're requesting 1 FTE for a utility service worker, also to reduce call-outs and overtime. And they're requesting 1 new FTE senior business analyst for billing software upgrade and on-site support.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Manning on utilities? Commissioner Hurd.
Okay, this is the biggest increase percentage-wise of the year at 13%. What's the majority of it?
Majority, for the record, Sam Emerson, Utilities and Solid Waste Department. The largest of that is solid waste and the collection contract with Waste Management we just negotiated. Also, transportation of recyclables. Waste Management is no longer in the business of processing those for us. So we will have a interlocal agreement with St. Lucie County. We'll just need to provide transportation of the single-stream recyclable materials that we collect to St. Lucie County's facility. Some of the expenses were construction and demolition and trash. We've seen some increase in tonnages since COVID, and we're seeing those to continue. So it's a combination, primarily solid waste. If you take out those solid waste increases, overall budget is a 2% increase.
Money well spent.
Thank you.
Commissioner Camping.
I had the opportunity recently to tour our transfer station out there with Mr. Emerson and some other folks, and I had been out there a long time ago, and just the increase in the volume and what is necessary to handle it. It's difficult work, it's dangerous work, it's dusty and it's hot out there, and so I give your team a lot of credit for that. And then also, as we start to, we're all taking credit and waving flags for our septic to sewer conversions and things like that, and we put a pretty strong requirement on Mr. Emerson and his team to speed everything up so that we could get to a finish line faster. And I just wanted to take a moment to commend you. Yes, there are increases here, but you are forced to deal with the ever-changing sort of situation and landscape of major contracts, and there's not a lot of people that do this work or would want to. And then also, I'd like to take another opportunity. I see that you said you were adding a person to handle household hazardous waste technician. I've utilized that service many times. I think the only thing I would say about it is that we need to promote it even more, because I think most people that are faced when they're cleaning out their garage and they have a couple of cans of house paint or varnish or some pesticides that they don't want to use anymore, they start to get clever and creative in figuring out how they can mask those items and throw them into the regular trash. I don't know if our residents are aware that, first off, you have the hazmat mobile that can go around and come to neighborhoods and homeowners associations so that they can plan their own get out of those businesses at their own locations. But right and in Palm City, of course, they can drop off any of these kind of products, even flat screen TVs and old computers that they're not sure of what to do with. Don't throw it away. Don't jeopardize the health and safety of people that are collecting these things, not expecting them to be there. I was talking to someone from Waste Management, that people are cleaning out old pesticides and they put them in plastic bags, and then when they're crushed in the back of the truck, these guys know not to stand back there, but some of these things can pop and spray those chemicals out onto the people that are working. So, and the folks that work at this area, I mean, if you are concerned that you have heavy items, 5-gallon buckets of paint or those old flat screen TVs or those plasma ones are really heavy. These guys practically charge right out of the place to assist. They have carts, and then they're handling it appropriately. So kudos to those folks that work out there, and adding a person to make it a better operation is terrific. Let's collaborate with our communications team to really present that in another way, maybe even an agenda item where you can come forward and make a video presentation. Bob Hoganson can go out there and do one of his man on the street spots, because I think it shouldn't be, but it's one of our best kept secrets. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
I was going to tag on to all that. I every time I go out, take my stuff out there. I think I shared this with you last time I was out there a couple weeks ago. First of all, the staff are unbelievably friendly and helpful. I mean, above and beyond everything else, it's not like you show up and you get a lot of flack for what you bring them. They take everything. And I agree with Ed. I mean, it's a little bit of a hike out there if you don't catch your Hazmobile that's in your neighborhood, but it is absolutely worth putting everything in the back of your car and taking it out there. If you're going to throw it away, they'll take everything. It's fantastic. And you guys, it's great what they do.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll move tentative approval.
Great, okay. I agree with those comments. And then the board, allocated a couple years ago, funds for septic to sewer over the next 10 years. And then obviously ARP funds are not in this budget, but are we going to be poised to have those projects designed and ready to go so that we can move forward without any delay to once those funds now have been allocated?
Yes, Commissioner, we'll have to gear up for that, and we're planning to do some of those projects simultaneously. I think, as Don may have mentioned to you when we spoke previously, the challenge was with all the funding coming to all the cities and counties, getting the consultants and those professionals on board and be able to manage that workload is probably going to be the biggest challenge.
And I think that's even going to get greater as we compete for those resources with other counties throughout the state. So I think if we are poised and ready to go on the forefront, and the sooner we can get those ready, the better position we will be in. So, okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on to non-departmental.
Hey, non-departmental. Non-departmental is one of the biggest budgets, is the biggest budget, and these are all expenditures that is outside of the regular operational departments. So the types of expenditures that is it's just non-departmental: risk management, economic development, you have grants and aids, you have debt service, budgeted transfers, and reserves. So these are all items that are not specifically related to a department. So in the non-department, the budget is $186 million. The portions of it is $24 million, or 13% of that is just non-departmental programs. You have risk management, which is 18%, economic development. You have grants and aids, which represents about 3%. You have debt service, which is 12%. Your budgeted transfers represents 17%. And your reserves, it represents 37%. In the non-departmental budget, we have items such as PTO payout and leave payout. We have St. Lucie refund to Beau Rivage. This is our final year for that, which is about $73,000, a little over $73,000. Then we have the FPL tangible personal property grant. That's also included, and that represents, of course, 14%. We have indirect costs. That is indirect costs that are paid through for utilities. We have building and airport that pays those indirect costs, as well as CRA. Then we have the park MSGU. That's a contribution for the operational portion of the parks that in the MSGU area. It's transferred to the general fund. And we have the wellness clinic that represents about $1.9 million. We have a property insurance, which is a large amount, which is 5.5 roughly. And then we have auditing and contracted services within that. And then we have professional services, rental and leases. And then we have a miscellaneous category, which includes, bank fees, repairs, dues and memberships, and publications. So the total of that is a little over $24 million. Sorry. Okay. Oops. Sorry. Okay. So risk management is, since we're risk adverse, the county is self-insured. It's a self-insured program for property and health insurance. Then we have the economic development, which are monies that we allocate for the Business Development Board. And then our grants and aids, our contracted services, providing direct services on behalf of the county. We also have grants and aid programs, they're unfunded mandates, and Florida statute ordinances. And then we also have the grants to private organization and other grants, like indigent care. So for our contracted services, we have Humane Society, we have Treasure Coast Wildlife, Historic Society, and Life Builders. Our budgets all remain the same as FY21. The same thing as the budgets were all the same for all the other programs as well, with the exception of those that, like a state mandate, that increase or decrease. And we have other grants and aid programs like 211 Palm Beach Treasure Coast, Alzheimer's. We have ARC, Boys and Girls Club, Council Agent. We maintain those budgets as FY21. And then continue with Treasure Coast, Homeless, Veterans Council, Volunteers in Medicine, Tykes and Teens. The other programs would be like the Doris Schlossberg Driver's Education. These funds are remitted to the school board for driver's education programs. And then we have a Port to Learner Fishing Dock. We have debt services, and those are funds that we allocate our repayment of our debt, principal and interest, and maintain the reserves as needed. Our budgeted transfers are just movements of funds. So you move from the general fund to another fund, like debt service, to pay for obligations, as well as transfers to the constitutional officers. And earlier, I showed the restricted reserves and the regular reserves spreadsheet, and it's a total of $68,983,295. And that concludes my non-department. I know it's a little fast, but if I can go back to any slide if you would like.
We'll see if anyone has questions. Commissioner Smith?
Jen, can you go back? It's probably the second or third slide with the House of Refuge. That's it. Do we know in that fund, is that cover the work that's going to occur with the roof and the painting and whatnot with the House of Refuge, or is that something different this year?
Mr. Stokes.
Afternoon, Commissioner. I think I heard most of your question. Was it? Did you
Does it cover the funds for the rehab of the building, the roof and the painting, and there may have been some window work. I'm not 100% sure.
No, this 76,000 is part of our
management?
contract. I'm sorry. It's 76,606. That money is used for them to manage the facility, to run it, to keep it open to the public, to conduct events out there. Where you'll find the money for us to maintain the building is in General Services FARB. And I believe they actually had in this CIP, we've noticed this both with Parks and General Services, is historic building FARBs, because those buildings require really special attention. And I do know that the Historical Society is also working on some fundraising, and they contribute as well towards the maintenance of the building and conducted a building survey.
Okay, so all that being said, do you know if that work's covered this year or not?
I know that the painting is covered, and I know that we have a grant in with the Florida
Preservation Board?
Yes, it's the Department of State or something along those lines, and I'll be going up to Tallahassee.
And that's for the roof and windows?
And that is for about, I believe, $250,000 ask, and then the match of that is in General Services FARB, and that will, of course, come back to you, and that should cover the roof.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I'm in non-departmental program, and let's see, under item number 4400, which is rentals and leases, that includes annual rent charge to field ops. How are we moving toward moving field ops?
Mr. Donaldson. That's his project.
Yes, we are. As you know, last time we talked to you, Commissioner, about moving field ops and other services, we're looking at 2 locations in the urban service boundary. We'll be bringing an agenda item to you hopefully within the next 4 to 6 weeks. That would give you the option, hopefully a purchase option, so we can move forward with that relocation.
Okay, thanks. I'm looking under other current charges, which is 4,900, and there's Parks MSTU maintenance payment of $1.7 million. Why is that here?
That's a transfer. The transfer for parks.
Yeah, the transfer for operations. So in the MSTU, the operational budget, the budget is up in the general fund. So the portion that's related to the MSTU is transferred.
Okay. Let's see. I believe that's all I have. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Tentative motion.
Oh, I had another one, and that is that aid to government agencies went from 8.4 million to 10.2 million dollars. Is that's where the CRAs are?
Yes.
Is that largely because of increased values?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith for tentative approval of the non-departmental, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting. And that looks to me like we've covered all of our departments. And now, Ms. Manning, you have a overview and a wrap-up.
Okay. Okay, so with all the departments tentatively approved, of course, the budget is $530 million, a little over that. And the total increase in the millage is 1.887%. And that's pretty much it for as far as a budget, tentative budget that needs to be approved.
Yeah, as based on this, there's no resolutions that have to be read today or approved. You're just giving us the tentative approval, and this will be the basis for sending out the trim notices with the property appraiser's office. You have 35 days from the first day that we receive those taxable values, which we received them prior to July 1st. So we will be putting this together unless the board provides us with different direction.
Okay.
So you want a tentative
How about
approval
some
for this?
board?
The overall budget as presented, yes, sir.
Tentative approval of the overall budget as amended or presented for today.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins for a tentative approval of the entire budget. I will just say that there's a couple things in here I think that we could probably take a look and maybe shave some things off the top. There are a couple positions in there that we've added that probably could be eliminated, or maybe eliminated. There were some, even our striping program there, we've made progress with the contractors that we didn't even, and we hadn't even started the program yet. So there's some things. Then our values went up 15 million. We were successful at getting $28 million in CARES funding, which doesn't even account for that, plus maybe potentially another 30 in ARP funding. So I think for this minor that we could probably take a look, maybe defer a couple projects for a year and work within and not have that 1.88% increase. So I'm not going to support the overall, but there are a lot of items that I understand where they're coming from. So we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Or opposed, sorry. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion is 3-2 with Commissioner Hurd and Hetherington dissenting. Okay.
Thank you so much for your support, and
I'd like to thank my staff for all the hard work that they do. They're wonderful and phenomenal group. And thank you, commissioners, for listening to the tentative budget today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are going to go to the public for public comment. If anyone wishes to comment, seeing none. Commissioner comment. Commissioner Jenkins?
Happy birthday, Taryn Chris.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. Commissioner Smith?
I'm all set. Happy birthday.
Commissioner Campy?
Madam Chair, since we're not going to have another meeting until the 10th of August, I needed to take this opportunity to congratulate the players, coaches, and families of Martin County North Little League, 11 to 12-year-olds. They competed recently and became state champions again. They'll be heading up. They got invited to go to Tallahassee to the Governor's Mansion, which I'm sure is going to be very exciting for the players and their families and the folks that are involved. They will be playing their next round as state champions, and it will be covered on ESPN3. It will be August 6th at 1 p.m. I'm sure they would love to have the support of their community, and hopefully, Madam Chair, perhaps on the 10th they'll be coming back as regional champions, but either way, as state champions is a tremendous effort and honor on their part, so hopefully we can have them back, as we have done in the past, to celebrate them and their families at a future commission meeting. I just wanted to congratulate them all and say job well done.
That's awesome.
Great. Commissioner Hurd?
I'm set.
Oh, I had a constituent reach out, and this would be probably Commissioner Smith, on the bridge pilot cleaning project, to know how that was going. And
You know, it's funny that you would ask that. I just went over yesterday, and we had a slew of fishermen out there fishing. So the updates we've had have been good. I have not physically been out there to see. I didn't get out of the car yesterday and go look, but I think it's time to kind of go out there and check to see how we're doing and where we are.
good. Look forward to see if that was successful and sustainable.
And sustainable.
Miss Woods. Miss Krista, and happy birthday. And our upcoming meetings will be August 10th and 24th, and those will be our regular Board of County Commission meetings. And with that, our budget workshop is adjourned. Thank you.